Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to the second day of official Masters 25 previews. We have a lot of cards to talk about today, so I don't want to waste too much time. A lot of good ones, too. The set's finally starting to take shape and is looking better and better as time goes on. Now, if you missed yesterday's video, basically we're going to recap all the cards that were previewed over the last 24 hours and just give some quick analysis. Now, before we get started, just a really fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to support us, one of which is our Patreon page. Also, you'll find product links on Amazon to things such as Masters 25. If you make any purchases on Amazon, no matter what it is, once you go through that first link, we'll get a small percentage. And then finally, Flipside Gaming, still offering a promo code for our viewers. You can save some cash. They have a pretty good deal on Masters 25 once you use the promo code. And there's other things there too, so check them out. With that being said, let's get into it with our first card. Akroma's Vengeance. Okay, this is a card that makes sense for the limited game because, I mean, they could put Wrath of God in there again. Maybe they will, who knows. But I do think when they find some of the interesting variants that have seen less printings, I think that's actually a pretty cool idea. You'll find this at rare. It's kind of hard to tell in the picture. It almost looks like a common, but it's actually a rare. And yeah, it's going to be fun for you when you get to play it in limited, blowing up all the artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. It's a nice panic card, and I love the cycling option on this because it does give you an opportunity to cycle it away if you're maybe already ahead and don't need to blow up the world. Also, the art is from the Vault Angels, which is pretty sweet. Armageddon, another card that kind of blows up the world. This one is one of the mythics, and I actually like this as a mythic. Now, financially, I realize it's not a huge card. You can pick up Armageddons for like $3, $4, $5, something like that most of the time, depending on which one you grab. But here's what I do like about it. First off, they use the From the Vault art, which is pretty sweet, especially if you liked that art but didn't like the From the Vault foiling. Here's an opportunity for you to grab this. And it does look very striking on this card, especially with the very simple, just destroy all lands, no flavor text. You got the watermark there. It looks like a really aesthetically pleasing looking card. I do like that. Secondly, this is not a card you want even at rare for your limited game. I feel like in sealed and draft, you don't want to run into this too much because this card is just super backbreaking if it's played at the wrong time, right? So I don't hate the fact that this thing is in the mythic spot at all. Also, too, keep in mind, even though the card itself isn't super expensive, foils can be a little pricey. I mean, basically, if you don't want the From the Vault one, you either have to go with the Masterpiece or the Judge promo, and those will cost you a little bit. So I think this is a pretty cool inclusion. Daren, King of Geldor. This is actually a really nice pick, I think, at the rare spot because it has value behind it, about a $7 card, and again, foils are actually pretty spendy on this one, about $35. So I do like the value here at your rare spot. But also, too, this is going to be a really fun card to play with, again, in limited. I had fun with this one back in the day when I played Cold Snap. So I'm looking forward to trying this out again in this set and to see if it can hold its own against some of these powerful cards. Decree of Justice. Not a lot to say about this one. It's another cycler. Every once in a while, you'll see like a one of these in like a legacy control deck, but not too often. But it's an interesting card. I mean, if you have a lot of mana to pour into it, especially. So I wonder if we're going to get some more big mana production or something like that over the next couple days. That could make the card a little bit better for limited purposes. Core Firewalker. Great sideboard card. You find this in modern, sometimes even legacy sideboards. It's good in like mirror matchups if you're a burn deck sometimes. Humans decks, every once in a while, I'll see one of those deck lists running some of these out of the board to deal with some red threats. So this is a card that actually is a welcome reprint, and happy to see this one at Uncommon. Savannah Lions. All right, nostalgia time here. Back with Savannah Lions. A lot of really interesting cards from the Alpha Beta Unlimited set we've been seeing, and this is one of them. Back in the day, this card was really no joke. Like, you could sit down and get a 2-1 on turn 1 for just 1 white. Sometimes that was enough to begin to put a game away early on, because there weren't a lot of good creatures people could put out, and it took them a while to cast the creatures. They were all higher casting costs, lower power toughness. This thing was ahead of its curve, definitely for its time. Now, modern day Magic, do we see 2-1s for 1? Yeah, we do. Sometimes they even have more upside to them, but back in the day, this card was the real deal, and I'm glad it's here because I do think it's going to still be good for you in limited, even in this stronger environment. And the art, this is brand new art. It looks very striking. Great job with this one. Biden of Thassa. And not a lot to say about this Theros entry here. I mean, the card doesn't feel super old at this point. First time it's ever been reprinted, though, so I will note that. Yeah, it's a rare that you'll pick up every once in a while, and it's going to be good for you in your sealed and draft games, and I think that's basically why it's there. I played this actually in Cube and have had success with it. Brainstorm! It is here, and it is at Common. So you're going to see plenty of these, lots of opportunities to go 3 deep into your deck while you're playing your sealed and draft games. Really excited that this is here. It's a great card. It does work a little bit better with shuffle effects. I don't know, fingers crossed, maybe we'll still see something that allows us to shuffle relatively frequently. I guess we'll find out as the week goes on. I know everyone's thinking about fetch lands, but maybe not, I suppose. With that being said, though, happy Brainstorms here, and they're using the art from Vintage Masters, actually, so this was never in paper before now. Counterspell, another huge card, classic card. Counter target spell. It's all it needs to say in front of that M watermark. Perfect. And we saw this art, of course, in Eternal Masters, so it's not new, but that's okay. They can't all be new pieces of art. And I'm just happy this card exists because there's going to be some powerful spells in the set. We've been seeing them for the last couple days. We're going to see more going forward, I'm sure. It's nice to have a cheap way to counter those spells, or at least threaten to be able to counter those spells. Because if you have 2 blue mana up, your opponent's going to have to think about their plays a little harder. They may have to hold back and slow down. And fast sets, powerful sets, need stuff like this, so that the games don't just degenerate into whoever can pull off their big stuff first, right? So I love that this is here and at Common. Flash. All right, here's an interesting one. First off, I want to point out the new art is very striking. Another good piece of art, and they've done a great job with the original art in this set. All of it has been pretty amazing. We got more to come, and you'll see in a few moments. But this is actually an interesting reprint. We saw this reprinted in 6th edition, but this is a card that has been banned in Legacy. It's restricted in Vintage due to some of the combos you can pull off, one of which, maybe one of the more famous ones, Protean Hulk, which, spoiler alert, is actually in the set too. So they did give us another kind of 2-card combo, like Channel Fireball, sort of, in this set, like they did with Iconic Masters, with Flash and Protean Hulk. Very powerful combo if you get to pull it off. This one's a rare, and Protean Hulk is also rare. So it won't happen all that often, but if it does, hey, you're going to have a good time, at least for one game. So I do like the fact that they got this out there, though, with new art. A lot of people didn't like the original art. I didn't hate it because I kind of like some of the cartoony, kitschy art and some of the old cards, but I can't say it was a good piece of art, so I'm happy to see this. And it's also important to note that this will be the first time the card will be available in foil. Vendilion Clique. This is a mythic rare, and this is another welcome mythic. Like, I feel like this is a really good choice. We did not see this in Modern Masters 2017. It was in the first Modern Masters and also Modern Masters 2015, so it's been a little while. This card's about a $30 card, so hey, you know what? Considering that and the playability level of this, you can basically run this in any deck running blue and you're going to be really happy. Perfect choice. And that's not to mention even its constructed value. This is great in a number of formats. Willbender. It's got new art. I don't have a lot more to say about the card. It is a morph card, so it's actually pretty cool. It probably means we'll see at least a few more morph cards in the set. Dark Ritual, another classic card. I was kind of expecting this one from the moment I saw Phyrexian Obliterator. I figured they would try to make it a little easier to cast. Wasn't sure if they were going to try to work this into common or uncommon, considering the Obliterator is a mythic. You wouldn't see it that much. But I'm glad they put it at common because it really goes a long way to bring back that nostalgic feel of what Black used to be back in the day. When you played Black, or were sitting across the table from someone who put down a swamp, you had to think that you could be facing down a first turn Hypnotic Spectre, or even a first turn Sanger Vampire, because if they had 2 Dark Rituals in their hand, they can just play a swamp and throw down a 4/4 flyer. That was what Magic used to be like. So I like the fact that they're bringing that element back for the sealed and draft games in this set, because someone could have a pretty big play, especially if they happen to grab a couple of these. Doomsday with brand new art. This art is amazing. I want to say that first. Noah Bradley's art here is incredible. Now, this card had okay art, but this really is over the top. This is a mythic, and value-wise, okay, it's not a huge value mythic, granted, but again, I feel like this could be interesting, maybe in limited, if they include a copy of, say, Laboratory Maniac at Uncommon or something like that. I kind of hope they do something similar, or at least along those lines, so they give you something to do with this card if you happen to pick it up, or a reason to draft it, in other words. But beyond that, yes, the card's not super expensive, but I think this will look amazing in foil. And right now, your only other foil option for this card is a Masterpiece. So if you want something a little bit different, or maybe something perhaps cheaper, hopefully, you'll have another option here. And as I was kind of alluding to, this card has also seen some great constructed play in the past in Vintage and those Laboratory Maniac decks. You don't really see that as much anymore, but sometimes you'll see someone try to grind that strategy out in Legacy now. Living Death. Here's a card that you don't see constructed play with as much anymore. Living End is kind of taken over when it comes to that, but it's still a very nostalgic card. I like the fact that they use the art from Vintage Masters from Magic Online. It's the first time you can see this art in paper, so that's actually kind of cool, and I do think the art is pretty striking on this card. So nice reprint at Rare. It's not a cheap card. I mean, you can usually find these for $5, $6 or something like that. And I think it's a pretty nice inclusion here. And it does go to show you they're probably thinking about some kind of reanimation theme in black. Nezumi Cutthroat. Okay, this card's never been reprinted. The reason it's here, though, is because it's a Rat Warrior. A very aggressive one at that, actually. And you're going to see in a few moments the pieces of basically a rat draft strategy, which could be kind of interesting. Ratcatcher, another card that's never been reprinted. And this is your kind of build-around card for that rat strategy, it looks like so far anyway. So basically you pick this up early and then try to draft a whole bunch of other rats like the one we just saw or the one that's coming up. How about Relentless Rats? And actually this is the first time printed in commons. You know what that means? It is now Pauper legal. So yes, that's actually kind of crazy. So this card will be entering Pauper, and the art again looks incredible here. They did a fantastic job with this new art. And I'm looking forward to maybe trying to draft this. Undead Gladiator. This is from Onslaught. This card has actually never been reprinted. Not that there's been much of a demand to have it reprinted. But I think this is here for your limited game because this is an opportunity to use the card as a discard outlet to hopefully discard something that you later want to reanimate. Zombify. And we've talked a little bit about reanimation. Here's another one of those cards. And here's a way for just 4 mana to bring something directly from your graveyard to the battlefield. Very powerful effect, especially in Sealed and Draft. Ball Lightning. You know this one had to be previewed by Patrick Sullivan. He tweeted it out today. So they always give him good red cards. And this one is going to be great for you in Limited. It's a rare. Again, it's not a super expensive card or anything like that. A few dollars these things run. It's been printed a few times now. But it's really nice to see this card again for the nostalgia effect, because back in its day, this was actually pretty heavily played. I played a lot of Ball Lightnings many years ago. And again, I think the watermark from the dark is actually really cool looking. I don't know, I just really like that crescent moon. Eidolon of the Great Revel. This is another card that Patrick Sullivan actually previewed. And again, rightfully so, another great red card. This is a fantastic inclusion. If you're looking for an example of a card to print from a newer set, this is the perfect direction to go. Because the card sees plenty of play in constructed formats like Modern Burn, for example. And the card is also not cheap. I mean, this thing will run you about $9 nowadays. And I really like this reprint too. I don't usually focus much on Magic Online, but this is an expensive card on Magic Online, around $22 or so. So this is going to be really welcome there. Journey into Nyx didn't get as much engagement on Magic Online. It was the third set in the Theros block, and because it was the third set and was a small set, it was open the least with draft. So these cards are kind of expensive there. Goblin War Drums from good old Fallen Empires. Another card that maybe you didn't know you needed a reprint of, but here it is nonetheless. This is going to be really good for you in Limited. It looks like Red's going to have a super aggressive theme, and this really complements that. Lightning Bolt. You know, Patrick Sullivan was really busy today. This was the third card that he had to preview and tweet out. So here it is, one of the most powerful and versatile direct damage spells ever created. And it is at uncommon in this particular set. So you'll be able to grab a couple, maybe if you're really lucky in a draft, although these will go fast, obviously. First pickable, no doubt, in a lot of packs. But I'm just happy to see it here. Okay, this one comes to us from a Japanese language preview. And you know what? Wheel of Fortune is on the reserve list. That's a very iconic card from back in the day. Saw tons of play. Magus of the Wheel is your second best option, I guess. And I actually like this as an inclusion because this was from Commander 2015. And it's never been reprinted. And this is going to run you about $11. And this will be the first time you can get it in foil. So this is an awesome choice for a card. Perfect. And yes, it does see constructed play in Storm decks and such. So it is a awesome inclusion here. Fierce Empath. Okay, here's another card with new art. I love the new art that they got on these cards. When they went with something new, they really knocked it out of the park. I will give them that. This one originally from Scourge. Again, another card. It's had a few reprints, but something you don't really think a whole lot about. I think, again, it's here for the limited game. It feels like green has a almost like slight tutor theme going on. This is a very conditional tutor, and that's why you play this card. You don't play it for the 1/1 elf, typically. You play it for that tutor effect, and allows you to grab, hopefully, a large creature that maybe you can pitch and reanimate, possibly. So that could be part of what's going on here. Giant Growth. I love this card. This is another one of those cards that you just put like in your draft and seal deck, maybe a 1-of. It always has a big moment. It always catches your opponent off guard. That 1 green, people aren't concerned too much about 1 green unless they're very, very experienced players. So you can really get by with 1 every once in a while with Giant Growth. 1 blue scares people more than 1 green, I've noticed, untapped. So yeah, I love this inclusion. It's going to be great and a lot of fun to play again in Limited. Living Wish, another card that is kind of a tutor. I mean, this one's a wish, so you have to go from outside the game, or if you're playing a competitive game, out of your sideboard. But what I like about this reprint is it's about a $5 card, like not super expensive, but it's only been reprinted once as a Judge promo, and they use the art from the Judge promo. So I really like that they've done that a few times now, that they've grabbed art from maybe some harder to find versions of the card. Protean Hulk. Okay, I mentioned this one earlier, so no big surprise here, but another really good inclusion. I mean, this will run you about $11. It's never been reprinted. If you want a foil, this will run you about $45. They're not cheap. So another real nice inclusion. Maybe you can happen to draft it with Flash. Who knows if you're lucky. And also, this is a card that has seen constructed play and continues to, even though it doesn't always have an opportunity to pair up with Flash. There's other cards. Sometimes you'll see this in like Through the Breach style combo decks. Conflux from Conflux, and this is another tutor-esque card, even though this one's in all 5 colors. Very hard to cast, but it's good in casual play, sometimes fun to play in Commander, and it did get the downshift from Mythic to Rare, which is always nice to see. Eladamri's Call. This one comes to us from a Chinese simplified preview, and this is another really nice choice, and another card that isn't green, although it's green and white this time, that is a conditional tutor. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. And you can do this one at instant speed, which is also very, very sweet, by the way. Now, this card has never been reprinted. If you wanted an original copy from Plane Shift, it's going to run you about $11. And if you want a foil, forget about it. Those things are about $75 because foils used to be a lot harder to pull back in the old days, especially for the rares. So they are quite pricey. It will be nice if you were in the market for a foil. You have now a better, cheaper opportunity to get one. Next, we have Prosh, Sky Raider of Kerr. All right, so this one's a mythic. Now, this might be your Comet Storm in some ways because this has really, really low value. This card you can probably pick up for just pennies, like talking like $1 here. So that's kind of a big mythic dud, unfortunately. But I will say this for the card. The card does see a fair amount of Commander play. I do see people running this in Commander decks. And this is the first time it will ever be available in foil because it was originally from Commander 2013. So I think this is actually kind of sweet for those reasons, but I totally understand why some people would be upset about the low value of this card and this being a mythic. Also, I want to point out on the right side of the screen, you see the token for Kobolds of Carekeep, which has never been printed before, so it's the first time you actually get this token that coincides with this card. Rurik Thar the Unbowed. This is another card that's okay, not very expensive. It's from Dragon's Maze. You can get this for literally pennies again. But this card does see a little bit of actual constructed play out of sideboard. Sometimes it's like a 1-of in decks, like even Lantern Control. I've seen this run in. So it's actually pretty interesting that they included the card because I do think there is a market for it. But at least right now, especially considering there was so much flooded Dragon's Maze out there, the card doesn't hold a lot of value, but it's still a very powerful and very good creature card. Vindicate. Vindicate's back again. They went back to the original art. Again, aesthetically, I think the card looks amazing. Destroy target permanent. You get the Apocalypse watermark, which looks amazing on the card. This is awesome. Like, aesthetically, just awesome. And we all know Vindicate's just a good removal card, right? Destroy target permanent, so it hits lands, hits whatever you have a problem with. We saw this in Eternal Masters. Of course, they gave it new art for that, going back to the original this time around. But I love the original. I didn't have a problem with the Eternal Masters one either. I thought that looked cool, but if you're looking for a Vindicate, again, another shot at it and another shot at the original foil, because getting this old art and foil could be a little expensive. Ensnaring Bridge. Wow. And Mythic. Okay, here's a big one. So Ensnaring Bridge, this is another perfect Mythic because you don't want this thing at rare. It's, again, another card that's just too backbreaking, but unlike Armageddon, which we talked about earlier, this Mythic has some value attached to it. I mean, these cards will run you about $40 or so, no matter which printing you're looking at. And if you want to talk foils, again, wow, forget about it because you're looking at $100 to $200 depending on which foil you choose. The Masterpiece being the cheaper one, some of the older ones going closer to the $200 mark. So being able to get this in foil, perhaps, if you didn't have the budget to do it before, is super sweet. And I haven't even begun to talk about the flavor here. They put Gerard on the card with flavor text from him, and he's in the art, and this is brand new art. This card is perfect. This is what master sets should be. They really, really did this one right. And of course, if you're not familiar with the card, sees extensive play in Modern. Lantern Control is one of the bigger examples, but sees play in a lot of Modern and Legacy decks. Mishra's Factory. And, this is the Antiquities entry, or at least one of them. And this is actually, from a nostalgic point of view, a very potent card to put in there, because if you played back in those days, and I know some of you probably did, back when it came out in Antiquities and then later got reprinted in 4th edition and more players were able to get copies of it, this was a popular card. Like, it was a fan favorite card at the time, and you'd always sit down and people would be playing around with this. Didn't always do a whole lot, but people were always putting it down on the table. So I think it's cool that it's here because it really does harken back to that time. Now, in the years since then, this card did find a competitive edge in Legacy and Vintage. You'll find this in decks like Shops and Landstill, among others. Alright, another card that really gets it right. Rishadan Port with the Judge promo art. This looks amazing. And most importantly, this is a rare. So basically you're looking at a $95 card at rare. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said, I can deal with a few dud mythics price-wise if they're giving me some big rares. This is one of those big rares that I'm really excited about. And if you want to talk foils, that Judge promo is going to cost you about $150. If you want an original foil, we're talking about $450. Insane. So here's another crack, another opportunity at this card, and this reprinting will make it more affordable for a lot of players. This is one of the cards a lot of people have been clamoring for a long time. People expected this in Eternal Masters, and it didn't happen, so it's been a while even since that set. I was kind of expecting it here. I didn't think they would disappoint again, and they didn't. Alright, so those are the cards for today. Now, if you were a little nervous about the set yesterday, you might be feeling a little better today. I know I am. And I think we're just another big mythic and maybe a few big rares away from saying, you know what, this is actually a pretty strong product overall. So a lot of the apprehension starting to melt away a little bit, and I'm excited to play this set. I really want to play this in Sealed and Draft. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, kind of like a Legacy Cube or something like that. So we'll be back tomorrow with another video where we're going to recap everything that happens within the next 24 hours. But until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.